This is the Flipform Think Tank. I'm JP. I'm here with a dear friend, Heather. You've seen her before. We're back. We're just catching up. We just talked to Michael Driver. You probably see some of those clips out in LinkedIn space. So, and I think we're gonna talk a little about Agile, and maybe Michael will come back and chit chat with us some more. That was really fun. I didn't, like I said, I didn't realize all of the conference bridges were just one. But he rolled with it. You rolled with it. It was great.
What a good guy, right? Like, I really enjoyed meeting him. Yeah.
He's awesome.
And now we're connected on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure that was a happy accident, like a little, now that's a happy little tree.
Well, and I think, look, one of the favorite things that I have about being independent is like this type of thing, right? Where these types of interactions matter, where talking to people, introducing people, it's like, hey, maybe I can't benefit from it, but you guys can. Perfect. So, and then at some point you'll find something for me or not, or whatever. But then, you guys have kind of moved forward and are helping each other, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, and to bring it around to the topic of this conversation,
dun dun dun.
I mean, that's kind of the nature of agility, isn't it? Like making sure that you're able to roll with whatever comes up, and nobody has to wait very long to course correct and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, we were talking about this with Michael. You missed this part. This was a perfect thing. So because we scheduled this because we wanted this to be our Agile Vent session.
Yes.
Right. So
I'm ready.
Are you ready? One thing that bothers me with organizations who either want to be agile or pretend that they're agile or something. Hey, Michael's back. Hey. So that's all right. Oh, it's all right. It's all right. But so I was just starting something new. So one of the things that bothers me about organizations who are looking to be more agile, adopt agile processes and things of that nature, it's something that Michael and you and I talked about before. It's that they lose sight of the overall value, right? Because one of the tenets of Agile is that we want to deliver value. It's value to the customer, right? Like at the end of the day, what are the activities you're doing delivering value to the client, right? And a lot of times what I find is that we try to do that in a big corporation until something happens and maybe the stock price wiggles, or maybe there's something kind of goes off the rails with regard to the schedule. And then we completely forget about the long-term value, and we say we're cutting the program. And then you know what happens? The value that you created up until that point all vanishes, And it's like, guys, forget about the $30,000, $50,000 that you're losing because of this thing being delayed. Remember that this is a $5 million year-over-year value to you guys, and the reason why you wanted to do it is because you're going to have this benefit later. And if you stop right now, not only are you not getting that 5 million year-over-year or whatever the number is, but you also lost on all of the implementation fees because it's not done yet.
I love this topic, right? JP. And so I think this is up to the consultant to solve, frankly, right? And here's why. It depends on how you decide to deliver the value, right? Each story that you write should be potentially shippable, right? It should be potentially shippable. Which means that you are giving the client a piece of value with every single story that comes out of your backlog, right? Or are you? Are you? Right? So if you're doing a story and there's no value delivered at the end of it, is it a story or is it a task on a waterfall roadmap, right? So if you write your backlog correctly, then the client should be able to go, we had a terrible year, we're going to have to scrap the whole idea. And you walk away and the client still has value, right? So for instance, everybody I know wants to do a big long discovery phase, and then we're gonna blah blah blah, right? Great, go ahead and discover, right? Especially as a client or as a consultant, you don't know that client tooling, their, what it is that they've already got going, that you don't know, right? So you have to go in, and if you're smart, you're doing it paid, right? You're not doing that work for free. So what is it? Tell me a couple of things that technologists hate to do. You want to hit? Requirements, which are a form of documentation. Have you ever met a technical person that likes to document anything? Zero.
At least in my world, they don't even comment their code.
Don't like it, right? And there's reason for that, because it feels like a waste of time. And what they're trying to do is deliver working code, which is the correct answer, right? So deliver working code, that's great. So what's your discovery phase for? What value does your client get when you're doing the discovery? You're getting the value, right? Unless that's not the only value. What if the value is, out of every story, I am going to write a chunk of this discovery document, which is now, like, if I walk away, you now have your system document that you didn't have before. Yay, you, right? I'm now going to dig you out of that terrible tech debt hole. And that's the value I'm going to provide you out of every story. So I'm going to go and I'm going to research why you guys chose Redshift, right? Versus Aurora. I don't know, right? Like whatever platform it is that you've chosen. I'm going to go and document that. And then I'm going to document anything that is, part of your existing architecture. Some of it we may be replacing, some of it we may not, right? Do you really need that SQL instance inside a bucket? I don't know, right? So maybe we're going to change it, but we're going to document where we're at right now in discovery, and then the intended outcome. So what if you get halfway through discovery, you've got that discovery document halfway done, you walk away, the client already has a better map of where they are and where they ought to be thinking about going, right?
But if he was
so when you're creating a backlog for discovery, it's not just like discovery goes here, right? Like here there be dragons, and then we move on to migration or modernization or development or whatever, right? Like that is a deliverable. That's a piece of value. Yeah.
So I'm going to flip the script on you here, Heather, a little bit, I guess. So now, so let's take that, because I know exactly what you're saying. Put that in the frame of or context of Michael's work, right? Where he may not be dealing with any sort of, software engineers or building any sort of software tech, right? But he is helping his clients, find value through building a better business development capability or something like that, right? So translate stories, translate our concept of stories and delivering value into that world where it would make sense for maybe a defense client or something like that.
Okay. So all of the acceptance criteria in your backlog are going to be requirements that are usually going to be regulation, right?
That's why.
So when you're talking about, who am I building the thing for? Am I building something for the warfighter? Am I building something for an administrator that's sitting inside
and I appreciate it.
unclass to class network problem, right? Like, what am I building the solution for? So the first thing that I like to do is make sure I identify all of the user personas, right? So I am not just warfighter out there that is doing, that has to use the thing that connects, this system with something up in the back. I don't know, right? Like I'm making things up, but you're identifying that as a user persona, and you're also identifying the people who will have to run the thing once you're gone, right? Or once your team is gone. So here, dear database administrator, I'm going to say that you're one of my user personas because you're gonna have to pick this up when I'm gone. And then, who's the person that's authorizing, that's doing the certifications for these things, right? Who's checking to make sure that this is fit for a classified system or what have you. So those people they're all user personas. So then you go through and you say, what activities does that user persona have to be able to perform, right? So for the person who's having to point the weapon system at the thing and it does the goodness, right? Or that defends the warfighter from a certain kind of cyber attack, whatever. You're thinking about the activities that user persona has to go through. Each of those things could be a story, or it could be an epic, right? A feature, right? So you would. My screen is too narrow here. So you could have feature. Like I want the weapon to auto target the evil marshmallow. I don't know, right? And then inside that, there's a targeting epic, right? And inside that, there are the stories that it takes to create that. And then you move on to the next user persona, because obviously your MVP is going to be what the client is thinking of as the main user of the system. But there are others that they're not going to be thinking of, and this always happens, right? What's your go-to-market strategy, even for a government and military system? Like, how are you going to not just get acceptance from that main end user, but how are you going to get the person who has to support, I don't know, like the cloud interface for that system? How are they going to support it and know that it's secure? Sure, right? Like, you think about a forward operating base. What do? They take a pallet of stuff and they drop it in the desert or somewhere like that, and it's got a server rack on it. It's got a bunch of tents on it, blah, 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 right? How are you going to package it for that person that's in the forward operating base?
Also
so things like that, those are the people that aren't the exact person that your client is initially thinking of. It's all of the people that are going to have to do what you and your team are doing while you're building it, right? So then that lays out beautifully on a timeline. So it's not waterfall if it's a timeline, right? It can look like a Gantt chart without being a Gantt chart, right? So we're going to do this chunk of value is going to go to the warfighter. This chunk is going to go to the database administrator. This chunk of value is going to go to, whoever's going to be installing this sucker over and over again, whatever. And so you think about it that way. And then the documentation, for instance, will take care of itself. So here's what we're going to build for the warfighter. Here's what we're going to build for the govy, right? Like the government employee who's doing the thing. And then those things will naturally slice themselves into time. Does that answer your question, JP? I feel like I just rattled on for a long time.
Yeah. No, it does. You know why? Because as independents, right, one of the things that you can go back to, especially, when you close out an engagement, or maybe you're trying to pitch for a new engagement, right, is how do you quantify value, right? Whether you're doing tech or not tech, and then how have I delivered value thus far?
That's right.
And if you're able to, in my experience, if you're able to articulate the value that you deliver, and if that's $1 more than the amount that you cost, then you're okay, or something like that, right? But usually they bring you on as an independent because they're looking to 10x or 5x your cost in value. And if you can articulate that by always kind of keeping in mind to how is my activity today delivering value. And it's not just delivering value anecdotally. It's like, what dollar amount could I put today that, okay, the work that I did today or the work that I've done this week, right? Even to say in this week, okay, I put you in, a $50,000 better position than we were when we started.
That's right.
That's a big thing, right? Because, going back to conversation we had before about where everybody, corporate leadership, they're all looking about numbers and they're all looking at the bottom line and how this affects. Like, well, if you're able to articulate it, your value in that language and your project's value in that language, where I'm always delivering value, then it's very easy to keep, to have that argument to keep your project and to keep you around.
That's right. And in order to understand and be able to derive that value, you have to know what waste or additional, what kind of force multiplier are you building? So you can only do that when you've identified who your user personas are. So for instance, JP, I'm going to save you X amount of hours by doing this. Or Michael, I'm going to save, X amount of false positives on these hacking attempts or whatever into your network operations center. Whatever it is, there's a dollar value attached to that, or there's lives attached to that, or there's whatever, right? So if you can quantify that and figure out what the value is, then like carving out what you should do first then also becomes very, very simple.
Yeah. So There you go. That was my Agile rant, is just,
That was it?
getting people. No, well, yeah, it's because it's eating us right now. We're just so what happens in practice is we are spending real time, real man hours trying to reconvince the larger organization that, hey, this project that you said added value to you is adding the value, right?
Yeah.
And we are taking people off of working to say, hey, because they're like, oh, well, this thing is 2 months late, because, for example, vendor XYZ had a bug in their software. And so that bug translated into this delay of getting this particular device. And now the people that we need to work with, they don't have bandwidth for the next 2 months to be able to test this thing. Okay, well, they have a job. They're inspectors. They have to go do their thing, right?
Yeah.
Is this 2-month delay really worth scrapping the project? Is that really what we're talking about here? Do you want us to go through this exercise to go reevaluate the business case every time this thing, we experience a blip on a 3-year project plan?
Well, here's
is this really what we're doing?
Also love, right? Include telemetry early in your project, right? So put measurements in that are easy to track. So whether that's, because everybody wants to measure velocity as value, and that's just not true, right? Like how fast, how many points is your team producing? Well, there you go. You're getting what you're paid for. That's just not true, right?
Yeah.
So I think that adding to if we're talking about a software system, and it's a technology system of some kind, you can always include telemetry, right? Like even if it's IoT, is it working? Is it hitting the markers that we said we wanted at the beginning? The other thing is can you scramble the jets, right? So can you maybe not scrap the program if there is greater value in solving that end user's problem? Can you repoint the entire team towards being agile and solving that problem, right? That may be a right answer, and the financials will tell you. If it's costing more to have this problem, right? It's an opportunity cost. Which opportunity cost is higher, right? So is the opportunity cost of pausing feature development versus production bugs? I mean, that's really what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
we've got a production.
Well, look, I'll give you the high level without going too client focused and too much into their weeds, right? So AI is a big thing now, right? And so there's a company out there. There's a few companies out there now in the oil and gas space that can help inspectors find problems in the refinery and in the piping and in the equipment.
Cool.
Using AI, And how do they do that? Well, they have to go out there and take x-rays. They have to go out there and do ultrasonic readings and stuff like that. These are all inspection techniques that have existed for a long time, right? But instead of having a physical, having an operator look at this thing, they can plug these images into AI now, and AI can, based on history of, okay, we've ingested this many things, we know that, okay, this looks like it's going to lead to a problem down the road, right?
Yeah.
So problem being cracks or spillage or something that they don't want to happen, right? And so everybody agrees that this is valuable, right? So, but AI is finicky.
Sure.
So there's bugs, and so they said, okay, well, hey, this piece of this AI thing doesn't work. Well, what's our recourse? Ship it back to the vendor, make them fix it, right? Okay, perfect. Well, the vendor, this is our first crack at it because AI is new. They don't know how to fix it, so it takes a while. Instead of a week, it takes 3 weeks.
Yep.
And now, you get 2 or 3 bugs that take 2 or 3 weeks to fix each, and now you're behind 2 months. Behind. And now they're like, well, our project plan had us doing this. We had you guys doing something else. We need to spend this money elsewhere. Like, oh, wait a second. Isn't the grand picture here better, to deliver, right? Because we're able to forecast large problems sooner, right?
Sure.
Like, for example, you won't have to replace the $10 million reactor we can just fix it, for $1 million. We're saving 9 mil. Because one of the use cases was, or one of the problems that we're trying to get away from, is that this client had a situation 2 years ago where they found a physical crack in one of the pipes, right? This pipe was, suffice to say, this pipe was important to the plant, okay? So they find it, okay? Now, they go back and try to find evidence of the old crack, right? How fast is this crack growing? How fast is it, whatever? And they couldn't find the data at all. Period. Like the data was gone. They went to the third party who did the X-rays or whatever,
or info
in the wind. No idea. So they have zero data on this. It's in their inspection interval. So now they have to assume that this crack appeared out of nowhere in the past 6 months. What does that mean? That means they have to gut the whole thing and replace it.
Great.
So that's like
a lot of fun. Thank you. It's nice.
$3 to $5 million, boom, in one day. For one length of pipe, right? And it's like, okay, well, how many pipes do you have in the plant? You know what I mean? And how much does this thing cost?
Yeah.
It's like, so
this
the point is,
I see what you're talking about. So, and unfortunately, Michael and JP, for you guys, government and military, and like the big older school types of organizations like oil and gas are not hip to this yet. But I don't think we say that. I just totally dated myself. Anyway.
That's all right. We're all friends here.
Like funding a project is not smart. It's just not, right? Fund a work stream. Fund a value stream, right? Like how much is that thing going to save you, and by when? You stop spending on that thing when you hit that point, right? So if this thing, how much is this rough ballpark? Like, are we talking about millions or billions every year, JP?
Well, I mean, so you imagine one pipe in one refinery, was $2 million. So I don't know how many pipes there are in one refinery, but there've got to be more than a dozen.
Yeah, and how many refineries do they have, right? So
you
start doing that math and you go, okay, so if we fund this work stream instead of and I hesitate to say value stream just because it's a loaded word, but it's a loaded phrase. But if you fund a product instead of a project, things just make more mathematical sense. So for instance, right now, this organization is funding a project. You're going to be over budget because bugs, right? For something that's relatively new space, probably for this organization entirely, let alone the rest of the world, right? AI is pretty new. Every single executive I'm talking to right now has the board breathing down their, what's your AI posture for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Like they're all getting that from their leadership. So every executive has to know what their AI posture is. This is a part of that portfolio for them. They have to figure out what's it worth to you, right? Because just because it's a buzzword doesn't mean it gets funding, right? So you have to figure out what that particular work stream is worth and then keep spending on it until it's done. And frankly, I think the people who created the bugs need to fix the bugs, and that should just be part and parcel of realizing the value. You have to allow the team to experiment and fail and do things wrong or tweak, right? Like we found out during a recent, I have a client, awesome client, but we found out during a recent AI project that the end user needed more details on the initial readout for the large language model, right? The LLM was giving a great answer, but it was too short, and they were like, okay, that's great. I'm gonna have to open the instructions anyway, right? So we made it longer, and then it took too long to render in the field, right? So it's a game of just tweaking it until it's just right, and businesses have got to be okay with that.
Well, you hit on something there that Michael and I were talking about earlier before you joined the call. You have to be okay with failure, right? Failure is okay. Actually, failure, a lot of times, if you want to get to where you're going, it's necessary, You got to be able to go out on a limb. You got to be able to try things. And you have to also have be given some runway to have those failures, right? Do you want a catastrophic failure? No, but do you want to be able to kind of try some things, and if it doesn't work, okay, well, we tried it, but the reason why we tried it is because if it worked, it was going to accelerate our progress, or it's going to be great for some reason, right? And not just organizations are not really willing to fail anymore, but it even seems like people, like to a person, people are afraid of getting, it's almost like people treat it like school. They don't want to get an F, and that is one thing where, work is not school anymore, right? You're going to fail, and it's okay.
Well, maybe school should be more like that, right? To teach that resiliency.
Yeah.
The experimentation piece. Go out and try a thing, and when you fail, come back and we'll figure out why it failed, right? Like maybe schools should be more like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like that's why it's okay to fail, so long as I tell my kids, it's okay to fail so long as you tried. Now, if you failed because you didn't put in the effort, that's a different thing.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
But if you went out there and you tried your hardest and you prepared and you did everything you could and you failed, that's okay. I'm not mad at that. But
awesome client
that's lost.
This awesome client I'm telling you about says, it told me that, we routinely fund these R&D projects. If it's below X dollars, then they just go try it. And about 25% of them end up great. And the other ones we just flush, but it's not that much outlay, right? So experiment, right? Like fund failure. Yeah. It's great. I wonder how many rockets have been, exactly, Michael. So it's like, how many rockets we were talking about military, we were talking about space, right? Earlier. How many rockets do you think the private space industry has blown up in the last decade? A lot. And do you think they let that failure go to waste? Mm-mm. Right? All of them are data gathering points.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Or if it was subject to government oversight, did too much government oversight, they would have failed right out of the gate, right? Like you got to be more willing to take those risks.
Well, and not just companies, but again, going back to what Michael and I were talking about before, individuals also, it's okay, right? It's okay. Part of what makes you better is you've gone out and you've you've tried a thing and you didn't succeed at it, you failed, and then you course corrected, and then the end product, you either got there or you actually made it better, right? Yeah. And that's one thing that Michael was finding, with his folks when he was working for other companies, is that it's just people that would report to him were just, they were afraid to make any sort of call because nobody wants to be the failure in air quotes, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't do anything. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So my fault. Yes.
You guys are great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've been institutionalized. Shake them up, Michael. Shake them up.
Well, it's a sign that the orgs are really, really big, right? Because working at our level, where we're solopreneur, fivepreneur, or however many people you have, or working like even at Annika, right? Heather, when we were working there, what Annika have 100 people or something like that, something maybe not even, but 100. The point is, it's there was no, you had to accept failure because we were flying so fast that it was inevitable. It was going to happen.
It was fun too.
I
remember my first failure there. My first failure, I just straight missed something. Have I told you this story before, JP? Right. Oh man, I'm sure you guys have exactly the same story. Hopefully your outcome was the same. So I was managing a small to medium business engagement. It was one of my first engagements as a principal consultant. And I straight missed a section of the sow, right? Like I was moving too fast. I missed it. The project manager missed it. Everybody missed it, right? And when we got closer to the end, and the client was like, "But what about this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm doomed," right? Like, you feel that flush of, "Oh my God, the world's about to end," right?
Yeah.
And I went to my boss, and I was like, "I really screwed up, right? Like, I failed. How much is it going to cost us to fix this, Heather?" I said, "About $25,000. And she was just like, "Don't do it again. Now I want you to go ask every other principal consultant how much their first screw up cost."
Yep.
And I did. I had to go and talk to every other principal consultant, and mine was the smallest.
Yep.
Mine was the smallest fail. And I was like, "Okay, all right, that's all right then." But like, kudos to her for saying, "Don't do it again, you dummy," right? But also put it into context, right? Like, everybody screws up, and in the grand scheme of things, it was an expensive lesson, but it was not as expensive as it could have been, right?
Yeah.
And I never made that mistake again. You should see, I've got like all of my SOWs are sitting right here, highlighted all the heck, right? And I will never make that mistake again. But, you should, like, your products have to be given the same grace, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's there is a lot of that. There is a lot of that. Yeah, it's like, well, what's the way we can get them off of the keyboard? Well, promote them. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, so that was the bulk of my rant. Heather, I know you had one. What was your Agile rant of the month?
What was my Agile rant? Okay. So my Agile rant of the month is, we got to get back to basics, people. We got to get back to basics. So frequently I see people go, "Well, this is how we do Agile," right? And so frequently they have completely iterated away from what makes you Agile. So things like being responsive to changing customer needs, like that one, okay, cool, let's do a change order, good to go. And so many people panic, right? Like, "Oh, we don't need that anymore." "Oh no," right? "Okay, cool, let's do a change order and change what we're doing for you. It's okay,"
Yes.
Or in the middle of things, we change buyers, right? And we're going from development to operational support, and now we've got a different buy. Now what, right? "Oh no, no, it's fine," right? You've got to kind of roll with the changes, and I see that is problematic a lot recently, especially for those who were not born at the same time as Agile, right?
Right.
Like, I see a lot of checklists going on.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of, when agility is so simple, right? Like, there's just a few tenets, there's just a few rules, and it's just like, for instance, I see like the reoccurrence of something I haven't seen in a long time, which is these stories, these user stories that are like 12 pages long.
Oh,
with
wow.
every requirement. If it ever go into documentation, like, I would love it if the software companies that like Jira and those guys, if they would limit the description fields. It has to be like, no kidding, what can fit on the front and back of a sticky note. Like, that's the way it was born, and that's the way it should be. And the reason for that is because you don't want to be doing like requirements documentation. That's one of the reasons that agility was invented.
Right.
Was to get us away from that and into just building stuff. Like, I would way rather be iterating on building stuff than spending hours and hours agonizing over acceptance criteria, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I've always thought that they should plug in their AI. Like, so Microsoft has an AI or whatever. Like, I don't know if you play with Grok, but sometimes if you see a Twitter post or an X post and you hit the Grok button, it just tells you, it gives you the summary. It's like, I wish they had that on my email box and on on the backlog. Just like, boom, give me the synopsis of what they're trying to say here, because this is too much.
Slack has a summary, like a daily summary.
Yeah.
That's all AI generated. It's great. But I mean, other basics like the stand-up. Why are stand-ups getting so dang long, right? Like, it needs to be, what did you... This is more of a rant, JP.
Tell me.
Right? Like, you're not ranty, but here's my rant. A stand-up. Why do we call it a stand-up? Because you're supposed to stand up, because then they're short.
Yeah.
It's what did you complete yesterday? What will you complete today?
Mm-hmm.
And then tomorrow you're going to come back to me and tell me you completed it. And then, like, why the after party never took off? Surprise! Like, I don't understand why, right? Like, so you do the what did you complete? What will you complete? What are my blockers, right? Everybody knows that formula, yet the stand-up is taking a half an hour for a 2-pizza team.
Yeah.
Should not. Should be close to 5-10 minutes max, right?
Yep.
So people go into these deep dives about, you know, how they got to the thing that they got to, and then they start solutioning in the middle of their what did I complete? Because I didn't complete it, right? So here's why, and I need help with blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, after party that. Tell me who you need after this call, and then they will stay on with you, and you will solution together. But like hijacking the stand up, like I just feel like the basics have really gone away.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I'm seeing that everywhere. I don't know why.
You're right. It's because so what I find is a lot of times people who aren't really used to the agile concept or the scrum concept of a stand up, right? Is that they think it's a status report. It's like they're looking for that venue to have the weekly status report so that they can barf out all the stuff that they did and leave out none of the stuff that they didn't do, right? You know,
exactly.
And so
and tell you why they couldn't finish what they committed to doing at the beginning.
Instead of like, you know, and this goes back to micromanagement versus non-micromanagement, where it's I don't necessarily care what you didn't complete, other than are you blocked from not completing it, right? What do I need to do to help you complete the thing that you can't complete right now? I don't necessarily care about the reason why you didn't complete it. I just need to know if there's something impeding you that you can't control.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Or we just straight like miscalculate how much you could do.
Yeah.
That's a fine answer as well. I recently saw a team that when they weren't going to finish a story, they would document what they did get done, split the story, and move half the story to the next sprint. And I'm just like, how are you ever going to know what your true velocity is? You can't.
No.
You can't know.
Because it goes back to the people are afraid to fail. Yeah, they're afraid to fail.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
They're looking for those.
They don't want to say I didn't complete it, even if it was something outside their control or, you know, life happens. Or people suck at estimating. It's just true, right? Which is the magic of story points. Like it should never be equivalent to a time.
Right.
Because people suck at estimating in time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We should accept that and move on. But, you know, it's like if people are chronically bad at saying, this is going to take me a day, don't estimate in days and just figure out how many story points you guys can do. And then, like, realistically, and somebody on your team always overestimates and somebody always underestimates. And so, you know, it's going to come out in the wash. And then you just adjust your velocity targets for each sprint. It's like the math is that simple, and that's why it works that way. You can go ahead and start by estimating in time, but then you have to iterate away from that very quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so I guess I was having this conversation with my friend Christina, which I was trying to get her on with you because she's also an agilist, and
I really want to.
You guys would be two peas in a pod. The one of the anti-patterns, the agile anti-patterns that people get hung around the wheel on is the time thing. And I feel like yes, but no, because I can see it from the other side. If you guys can get work done and not get too wrapped around the wheel about a day, a week, a month kind of thing, you know, if you keep it in those sections, like I don't care. There are other things that I could nitpick on a team versus that, right? It's like if that's the only anti-pattern that you have and actually it's working for you guys, then I'm not super concerned about fixing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it gets to where you're saying is where people try to gamify it, they're trying to get credit. It's always about, I'm trying to get credit for the work that I did. And it's like, guys, it doesn't necessarily, I don't care who did the work, right? Did the work get finished or not?
It should be a black box.
Yeah.
Right? Like your buyer, that should be a black box. Who did what, right? Like you can call people out during a demo The big hero was Michael this sprint. He did this awesome thing, right? But that's not the norm, because the backlog, the sprint backlog, is owned by the entire team.
So,
right?
Guys,
So.
this is fun. I've got to take off though, because I got to go pick up the kids. But let's see, Heather, for people who want to do coaching, who want coaching for Agile, how do they get a hold of you?
It is heather.eisele, that's Eisele, at arwin.com.
arwin.com. All right, perfect.